The air at Boca Chica was thick with anticipation. It was May 27, 2025. A new day was dawning, not just over the Texas coast, but for all of humanity's future in space. Thousands of people had gathered. They lined the roads and beaches, their eyes fixed on one object. It stood tall against the morning sky, a monument of stainless steel and dreams. This was Starship, the most powerful rocket ever built. It waited patiently on its launch pad, a silent promise of the journey to come. The countdown clock ticked away the final minutes, each second stretching into an eternity of hope and nervous energy. Everyone here, and millions watching around the world, knew they were about to witness history. Starship itself was a magnificent sight. It was not just a machine, it was a symbol. Comprised of Booster 14 and Ship 25, it gleamed in the early light. This was not Booster 14's first dance. It had flown before, a veteran of a previous test flight. Now it was back, ready to fly again. This reuse was the key. It was the entire point of the Starship program, to build a rocket that could be launched, recovered, and launched again, just like an airplane. This simple idea, if proven, would change everything we know about space travel. It would make the cosmos accessible in ways we have only dreamed of. The atmosphere was electric. You could feel the collective heartbeat of the crowd. They were not just spectators, they were participants in a grand cosmic adventure. For years, they had watched this program grow. They had seen the early prototypes, the rapid assembly, the explosive tests, and the slow, steady march of progress. They had witnessed failures and celebrated successes. This flight, the 9th integrated test, felt different. There was a quiet confidence in the air. The lessons from the previous 8 flights had been learned, the engineering had been refined. This was the moment of truth, where theory and practice would hopefully align in a perfect symphony of fire and steel. The vehicle was a testament to human ingenuity. Its massive form, nearly 400 feet tall, seemed to defy gravity even while standing still. The reflective steel skin was more than just a covering. It was a shield designed to withstand incredible forces. It would endure the heat of launch and the even greater heat of re-entry. Every weld, every tile, and every wire had been meticulously planned and executed. This rocket was designed not for a single glorious mission, but for 1,000. It was built to be a workhorse, a celestial ferry that would one day carry people and cargo to the moon, to Mars, and perhaps beyond. As the final checks were completed, a profound silence fell over Starbase. The wait was almost over. Ignition. A wave of fire and steam erupted from the base of the rocket. One by one, then in a torrent, 33 Raptor engines roared to life. This was not merely a launch. It was the creation of a temporary man-made star on the surface of the Earth. The power was unimaginable. 17 million pounds of thrust pushed against our planet, a force greater than any rocket in history. The ground shook violently, a tremor felt for miles around. The sound came a moment later. It was not a noise you hear with your ears, but a physical force that vibrated through your entire body. It was a deep, guttural roar that seemed to tear the very fabric of the air. The crowd gasped, then they cheered. Phones and cameras were raised, trying to capture a moment that was too immense for any lens. Starship began to rise. At first, it moved with a slow, deliberate grace, as if testing its own strength. Then, with gathering speed, it climbed. It ascended on a pillar of controlled fire, a brilliant white-orange column against the blue canvas of the sky. The sheer scale was breathtaking. It was a skyscraper taking flight, a city block lifting off into the heavens. The world watched, united in a shared moment of awe. This was the raw power that would be needed to break the chains of Earth's gravity and begin our journey to other worlds. This liftoff was a vindication of years of relentless work. In previous flights, some engines had failed to ignite, but today, all 33 Raptors performed perfectly. They burned with a fierce, stable intensity, each one a masterpiece of complex engineering. The water-cooled steel plate of the launch mount, a key innovation, held strong against the immense heat and force. preventing the destructive debris clouds of earlier tests. Everything was working as designed. The rocket soared higher and higher, a silver arrow aimed at the stars. It was a flawless demonstration of power and control, a declaration that a new age of spaceflight had truly begun. The sight was overwhelming. As Starship climbed, it pushed through the thin clouds, leaving a long, billowing trail of vapor in its wake. The roar of the engines slowly faded, replaced by the cheers and applause of the onlookers below. People hugged each other, tears in their eyes. They had just witnessed the successful start of a monumental journey. This was more than just a test flight. It was a leap forward for our species. The immense power of those engines was not just for lifting metal, it was for lifting our aspirations, for pushing the boundaries of what is possible, and for opening up a new frontier for all of humanity. The ascent was perfect. Starship powered its way through the atmosphere, gaining speed and altitude with every passing second. On past missions, challenges had arisen during this critical phase, but this time every system performed flawlessly. The rocket remained stable, its guidance systems making tiny, precise adjustments. It was a beautiful, controlled burn, pushing the vehicle towards space. Then came the moment that had been a major hurdle in the past stage separation. This delicate maneuver, known as hot staging, required the upper stage engines to ignite while still attached to the booster, pushing the two apart. It was a cosmic ballet, timed to perfection. It worked. The connection between Booster 14 and Ship 25 was severed. Ship 25's engines lit up and it cleanly separated, continuing its journey toward orbit. Below it, Booster 14 began its own complex dance. Its job was done for the ascent. Now it had to come home. The massive booster performed a graceful flip maneuver, turning itself around to face the direction it had come from. A series of engine burns slowed its descent, guiding it back toward the Gulf of Mexico. This controlled return was crucial. Proving that the booster could fly back to a precise location was a vital step toward catching it with giant robotic arms, a system nicknamed Mechazilla. Meanwhile, Ship 25 soared onward. It was now in the thin upper reaches of the atmosphere, coasting toward its target altitude. Once it reached the vacuum of space, it faced its next great test. To become a true interplanetary vehicle, Starship must be able to fire its engines in space, not just to get there, but to change its orbit and travel to distant destinations like the Moon or Mars. The command was sent. One of its Raptor engines was reignited. A small plume of flame appeared in the blackness of space. It was a short, controlled burn, but its significance was enormous. It was a successful demonstration of in-space engine restart. This success was a game-changer. It meant Starship could perform the complex maneuvers needed for orbital refueling, a key part of the plan for deep space missions. It could rendezvous with a tanker ship, top up its propellant, and then have enough fuel to travel all the way to Mars. This single engine burn, lasting only a few seconds, unlocked the future of the entire program. It transformed Starship from a vehicle that could only reach low Earth orbit into a craft capable of navigating the solar system. The mission was already a historic success, and the two parts of the rocket were not even back on Earth yet. The journey back was as dramatic as the journey up. Having completed its boost-back burn, Booster 14 began its descent. It fell through the sky, guided by its large grid fins. These waffle iron-like structures controlled its orientation as it sliced through the thickening atmosphere. This was a trial by fire. The air resistance generated immense heat and pressure, but the booster held strong. Engineers had made numerous improvements based on data from previous flights, strengthening the vehicle and refining the control software. The goal was no longer just survival, it was precision. The booster had to aim for a specific patch of ocean. As it neared the water, a final landing burn began. A sequence of engines fired, slowing the massive rocket from supersonic speeds down to a gentle hover. It was a stunning display of controlled power. For a few breathtaking seconds, the 14-story tall booster stood upright on a column of fire, just meters above the waves. Then, with a final puff from its engines, it settled softly into the Gulf of Mexico. A soft splashdown, a complete success. The booster was intact, upright, and had landed exactly where it was supposed to. This proved that a pinpoint landing on land, or even back onto the launch tower, was now within reach. Far above, Ship 25 began its own fiery return. After its successful engine test in space, it turned its belly to the atmosphere, presenting its heat shield to the inferno of re-entry. It hit the air at nearly 17,000 miles per hour. Plasma, hotter than the surface of the sun, enveloped the ship. Onboard cameras showed a spectacular, terrifying light show of incandescent orange and purple. The hexagonal ceramic tiles of the heat shield did their job, protecting the ship from being torn apart. Small movements of the ship's large flaps steered it through the plasma, controlling its path and slowing it down in a maneuver that looked like a skydiver arching their back. The final moments were the most tense. After surviving the heat of re-entry, the ship had to perform one last audacious maneuver. It had to flip from its horizontal belly flop position to a vertical orientation for landing. This flip and burn was the final test of its control systems. The ship dove toward the Indian Ocean, then, at the last moment, its engines fired. It righted itself, slowed dramatically, and just like its booster half a world away, performed a perfect soft splashdown. It landed gently in the water, upright and intact. For the first time ever, both the booster and the ship had completed their full mission profiles and landed successfully. The successful splashdowns of both Booster 14 and Ship 25 marked the end of a flight and the beginning of a new age. This 9th test was not just an incremental improvement, it was a breakthrough. It demonstrated full mission reliability. It proved that the fundamental concept of a fully reusable super heavy lift launch vehicle was not just a science fiction dream, but a practical reality. The data gathered from every second of the flight, from liftoff to landing, was invaluable. It provided the final pieces of the puzzle needed to move on to the next, even more ambitious phase of the program. The era of disposable rockets was officially ending. The immediate future is clear. The next step is to recover the vehicles, not from the ocean but directly on the launch pad. The giant robotic arms of the launch tower, Mechazilla, will be tasked with catching the returning booster and eventually, the ship. This will allow for rapid inspection, refueling and relaunch, potentially within hours. This rapid reusability is what will truly revolutionize access to space, driving down costs by orders of magnitude. What was once the domain of national governments will become accessible to a much wider range of companies, scientists, and eventually, tourists. This achievement solidifies Starship's role in humanity's return to the Moon and first steps on Mars. NASA is already a key partner, having selected Starship to be the lander for its Artemis mission, which will put astronauts back on the lunar surface. The success of IFT-9 gives the agency and the world confidence that this vehicle can safely deliver humans to another celestial body. The door is now open to building permanent bases on the Moon, mining resources and using it as a stepping stone for the much longer journey to the Red Planet. The dream of becoming a multi-planetary species is no longer a distant vision. It is on the horizon. We stand at a pivotal moment in history, similar to the first flight of an airplane or the first voyage across an ocean. The success of Starship's 9th flight on May 27, 2025, will be remembered as the day we unlock the heavens. It represents a fundamental shift in our relationship with the cosmos. The sky is no longer the limit, it is the beginning. Future generations will look back on this day and see it as the moment we truly began our journey to the stars. The universe is vast and full of wonders, and thanks to this magnificent machine, we are finally ready to go exploring.